It is the Anfield Wrap. Neil Atkinson with you, Gareth Roberts, John Gibbons, Ian Salmon. In the aftermath, and it is the sort of game that has an aftermath of Tottenham Hotspur 4, Liverpool 1. I'm not going to stand on ceremony, I'm not going to mess about. Gareth, Liverpool were abject.
Yeah, really poor and really disappointing, really hard to take. I was one of those ones that thought, however you want to, whether Maribor, the crappiest team in the world or not, I thought, putting them away 7-0 would put us in the right place mentally for a game like Spurs. And I'd kind of been persuading myself that, they might not have that much in the tank, having matched Madrid as well. And then just all that went out the window, didn't it, in a matter of minutes. And all self-inflicted, all shooting yourself in the foot or probably shooting yourself in the face, to be honest. And yeah, it was just awful. I couldn't believe the amount of mistakes and the amount of errors. And I don't think Klopp can either. I mean, Klopp's reactions on the touchline, he looked like his head was completely gone. He obviously slaughtered them in the press conference afterwards as well, which is not really his normal approach to things.
So you've got to presume he slaughtered them to the face as well.
You would think so, wouldn't you? Even on, he was asked directly about Lovren. He said, well, Matip was no better, which is really getting stuck in. And then talked about sort of he could defend better wearing a pair of trainees, basically. So for Klopp, that's getting pretty much stuck in, and I think it is. I think it's hard to take all round because lots of chat about systems, setup, personnel, all the rest of it. But how many times now have Liverpool conceded a goal this season that started off with an opposition throw-in? Like, why does that keep happening? Like, why don't they learn from that previous mistake and go, I know, lads, let's get tight on a throw-in because it keeps leading to a goal. And I think this is the problem with it, that you just keep seeing errors from the same players over and over again. And in fact, it's very hard to make excuses for them. So, Lovren and Mignolet at the scene of a crime around the goal, well, that's not new, is it? I think on here we try and be very fair, and we're probably like the last to slaughter players at times because, I don't think that's not an editorial decision or anything. I think we just think we're talking about Liverpool that much that you almost keep your powder dry sometimes and think, if we go early on slaughtering the players, where else have we got to go? But, at some point you've got to, you've got to be able to point fingers at players and say they're not good enough. And I think we're reaching that point with some players. The two I've mentioned would be the big ones for me. And I just think I've said this elsewhere already today, but Klopp builds his approach on faith, on believing and all that sort of thing. And I think some of the doubts are now creeping in because of the faith he's put in players. And I think people keep talking about the keeper, people keep talking about the centre halves, and there's a reason for that. And it's en masse as well. It's not like a minority opinion. Everyone, your pundits, your fans, other players, everywhere you turn, everyone is slaughtering this defence. And I don't think they're mentally strong enough to deal with it. That's what it looks like to me. I don't understand what Dejan Lovren is doing that early in the game twice. I just can't understand what he's spinning round. He's trying to play offside. He's going to head on a ball that was never there to be headed. And I feel like Harry Kane got in his head before he even kicked the ball. It was like he'd watched the best of Harry Kane on DVD on the coach coming down. I'm just like on the pitch going, that lad's boss and he's going to score. What can I do about it? Not much. I can't do anything. Like his head was completely gone. And then, to pull him on half an hour as well, I think that's a big, no one wants that as a professional. And I can't remember loads of times where that kind of thing's happened. I'm sure it has happened. I mean, one that's what stands out for me that I remember just because I was there. I remember Otsemabor getting pulled at half time by Hueng-Min. And I remember thinking that's harsh because he was a young lad. But, this is a seasoned pro, a lad who's played centre half for years for club and country. A lad who, when we signed him, you had like Neville, Carragher, everyone praising him. And even they're gone on him now. I mean, Neville was talking on the commentary saying, this is a different player to that one I was praising when he was at Southampton. His head's gone. And I don't think he's the only one. And I think the problem now for Liverpool as well is, like, how do we keep the faith as a set of supporters now? Because I just feel, yes, it's early in the season and we can do all those things and we're only this many points behind third or fourth or whatever. We're 12 behind Man City and Man City are on a different plane to Liverpool. We're not going to win the league. It's not even Halloween and we're saying we're not going to win the league again. And to me, as someone who's 41 and watched these bastards for 27 years, that is hard to say every season. Fucking hell, another year where we're not going to win the league. So Yeah, tough to take.
John?
Yeah, I'm not sure I can answer that. That was very good. Yeah, it is frustrating. On Lovren, I worry about him this year in particular. I don't think, these stories about, the pills he's taking before every game and stuff like that worries me, because I read the interview that Danny Agger did when he was talking about what that did to him and how he took too many one time and he was just absolutely spaced out, wasn't he? And I was watching Lovren there thinking, is something like that going on? It can't be good for him. And it's frustrating that we've got ourselves into that situation as well, where it's dating Lovren on kind of painkillers and throwing him on there. I just can't believe there wasn't a defender out there that they could have got, and I think that's frustrating. And we are where we are now, and I don't really like talking too much about transfers because look, we can't buy anyone till January, so we need to find a solution with the players we've got. But you're just watching them, and he doesn't seem to fancy Klavan anymore either, because that's the obvious sub, isn't it, to kind of throw him on, but doesn't seem to kind of fancy him either, and so you're just kind of in a situation where we just don't look in a great position, and you can get till January, but as Robert says, it's gonna be too late by then. They're out of the title race already. They're not going to get 12 points. You'd fancy that to be 24 at the end of the season, not less. Do you know what I mean? And so we're in a situation where we're just so far behind, and not just in terms of points, just in terms of the teams. You look at the teams who we're supposed to be rival with. You look at the spine that they've got, and someone put on our Facebook subscribers group, the spines of the top 5, 6. I think it was Chris Moore's, I think, and you just look at it and you're thinking it's miles away. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they're bad players, but they're not good enough, and it's frustrating because a lot of these players have been here a while now, and they haven't been good enough, and so I don't really understand why we're still watching them really, and why they're still being expected to do the business when they just haven't been able to. And Gareth's right that maybe too much faith has been put in some of them, but it's frustrating because I don't see an obvious solution. I don't see there's not a lad who's not getting used. Do you think we'll bring him in and see how we get on? It seems to me like that the good players who are on the bench aren't really in problem areas. So I don't really know what he does here, Jürgen. He's tried to, obviously he's gone out to slaughter them, and I'm sure he's hoping to kind of get a reaction from that. But it's the lack of heart really, and that annoys me. And you watch them, and so we saw Man United come to Old Trafford a couple of weeks ago, and they weren't great, and they get the 0-0, but they weren't on with a game plan, and they set out to do it. And after the game, I watched the two centre halves and the keeper celebrated together, and they congratulated each other, went well in there. We've done that, and I thought, at one point you could say, they're celebrating the 0-0. What's all that about? But they're celebrating the job that they did. The three of them have gone out there, the keeper and two centre halves, and thought, we're keeping a clean sheet today, no matter what happens, and hopefully the strikers will get us a goal. But our job is to do that, and then they celebrated that success at the end of the game, and I just can't see our lads doing that. I just can't imagine a situation where they don't seem to me like that bothered about keeping a clean sheet. Like, it doesn't seem to be something that appeals to them. I think Joe Matip just thinks he's an attacker who plays deeper rather than a defender. Do you know what I mean? They're like, I think they see themselves as attacking players who play in, just play a little bit deeper on the pitch, rather than I'm going to go out there and I'm going to defend for our life. We're going to defend for our lives today, and we're going to achieve this thing together. I just don't think they're that bothered.
I think that I was thinking about that as well, watching it, and look, Jamie Carragher came in for a lot of criticism at different times in his Liverpool career. But one thing you could never hold against him was him being in the right place mentally for a game. Yeah. And like, you read some of the stuff he's done with Ty Hughes, and I absolutely love it, because the stuff he says things like, I don't like all this shaking hands and fist bumping other players and all that. When I went out, it was a fight.
Yeah.
And that's the mindset that it should be for me. And I think, whatever's gone on there, however, we can't know because we're not behind the scenes, but whether it's preparation, whatever, they were not mentally in the right place to go out there and get a clean sheet, and none of them played like the life depended on getting one. What they played like was they were shit scared of Harry Kane, and they went out there almost believing that he was going to score, and then that's exactly what happens, and that's the wrong way round. It should be, no, we can go out and we'll be up his arse, we'll be tight to him, he won't get a sniff. and instead you're giving them, you're gifting them.
On that, I'm going to bring Ian in a minute, but on that, like Lukaku didn't get a kick last week.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. This is the thing that I find really difficult to sort of deal with last week. And I take John's point and I agree with much of what he says. But last week, Liverpool's defended really solidly, dealt with Lukaku, just did not let him have a sniff at any stage. Couldn't get near it. He couldn't get near it, really. Couldn't get involved in the game. And that's where I'm just a bit like, well, Gareth, I'm like, well, lads, last week, you were mentally in the right place, absolutely. Yeah. And I agree with you. I just think that they're too eager, they're too aggressive, they're too concerned about him. Everyone's making the wrong decision because it's Harry Kane. Whereas last week with Lukaku, it was like, yeah, it's Sam, we'll box this. Yeah. And I don't understand. It's the inconsistency that drives me as mad. If they were just crap every single time they took to the pitch and you're able to go, you were crap there, lads. And then it'd almost be easier.
And that's the problem, isn't it? Because, look at... There will always be people who look for positives, and like I got a bit of stick for a couple of tweets I put out, which I don't think were particularly damning, but some people were saying, it sounds like you're sort of waning your support for Klopp, that sort of thing. I'm not. I still think he's the right manager. I'm just really, really, really frustrated watching that, because you kind of do feel like that they're capable of more, and they did defend pretty well against Manchester United, but they just weren't at it at all. They're just so far away from being right. And the problem now is, look, I see people saying, oh yeah, well, we've only lost 3 or whatever and all this kind of stuff. But we're dropping points, though, all over the show. And you kind of, like John says, I can't see this light at the end of the tunnel where we start stringing together, 10, 15 match runs, which is what we need, really. I mean, already now, if we're just holding up last season's performance as being a good one and getting 4th and winning that many points and all that sort of thing, which we all have at different points, that's already looking like a big ask to get that many points on the board at this stage. Because what they're going to have to do is put together a big run of undefeated games. And right now I'm looking at it and I think, you're capable of winning games. You're capable of losing them, though. You're definitely capable of drawing them. I'm not sure about your mentality. And I'm not sure what you need in a match to almost know you're going to win, if you know what I mean, as watching and as a fan. If they get 2-0 up, do I know they're going to go on and win it? Well, I'm still not sure.
I want to come on to the road from here towards the end, and before then, what the thing that drove me mad, and I think that they've both very much been touched on, is Spurs don't have to work for any of their goals. They don't have to work for any of their goals, and that's what drives me more mad than anything else. Is for us to score, there's a great ball and a scuffed but effective finish. For them to score, it's the easiest thing imaginable.
Yeah, they just run through us, and it's, to be honest, I could sit here for the next hour and just listen to Robbo. That would do me as a show. And if you can do me a show later on of just Robbo talking for an hour about the game, I'll listen to it quite gladly.
Get on the Instagram. You don't feel about Instagram.
That'll be wonderful.
Yeah, I did one of them last night.
I honestly, I don't know anymore. It's hard for me to sit here and disagree with everything I've ever said about Liverpool. To sit here on Friday afternoon to do the City Talk show and talk about the fact that we're good enough to beat Spurs, we have the right shape to beat Spurs, we've just shown what we can do defensively against United, we've shown what we can do as an attacking force against Maribor. To say all that, and then to watch them do that, it makes me think that, I don't claim to be an expert on anything, but it makes me think that I genuinely know absolutely nothing about anything at all.
We're just fans, aren't we? I mean, look, we said walking over here, and so I'm going to throw this one in early. Before someone asked why we haven't watched the match 4 times, I'm a fan of Liverpool Football Club. I don't want to watch that ever again. I've watched, what I mean? Once was quite enough.
No, I've watched the highlights once. I've watched the match once live. I've watched the highlights. I've watched the goals another 3 times, trying to figure out what the hell happened.
You still don't know.
I still don't know. I still can't remember what the goals look like. They're so horrible that I'm forgetting them immediately. As soon as I stop watching,
we just basically kick in our own goalie.
We're not even shooting ourselves in the feet anymore. We're just throwing ourselves on bombs all over the bloody place. It's as dispiriting a performance, I think, as I've ever seen from us. And in terms of Lovren, I thought Skirtle a couple of seasons ago, the game that basically finished his Liverpool career, was the worst performance I'd ever seen from anybody in a red shirt, worst solo performance. And that's taking out your Sean Dundees and your Paul Stewarts and Bernard Diamese, etc. It's from an actual Liverpool footballer who's supposed to be on the pitch all the time and was supposed to depend on. That was as bad a performance as I've ever seen from anyone. Now, the fact that there are other circumstances going on there, Gomez is actually playing Kane onside when Lovren is thinking Kane's offside. But Lovren shouldn't be looking to play Kane offside at that point. He should be next to his man to make sure nothing goes wrong. Because if you know this lad is bloody lethal, and this lad is bloody lethal, then you take care of this lad who looks lethal. And they did manage Lukaku last week, who's currently still, I think, the leading goal scorer in the Premiership. Don't think Kane's overhauled him yet. He will do, obviously. But is that more to do with the fact that we cut off the supply lines? Is that then more to do with the midfield? Because I don't know about our midfield yesterday because I was completely absent. And if I was a United fan, I would be really, really pissed off with Mourinho at the moment, because what we showed yesterday was that if you run at us, you will destroy us. And they didn't have to do a great deal for that first goal. That little chip over the top is too easy, because even then, Lovren has time to recover. Matip has time to come across the man.
Absolute. That's what annoys me. That you mentioned Matip there, like that. Back to the Carragher point, like an absolute will to want to clean things out.
I'm taking this bastard,
busting your gut. Yeah,
I'm going to have this,
and it's sort of like, it looks a bit casual at times, and it looks like, and it's like, switch on. Like, this is what Klopp keeps going on about, and I'm inclined to agree with him on this point. How many times this season aren't they switched on as a collective, as individuals? Did another team? I mean, there was a moment there yesterday where Spurs took a quick free kick. Coutinho's still fucking sitting on his ass, moaning about it. They've took a quick free kick and they're on the break, and it's like, how come they can do that? How come they can be switched on? How come they can be thinking about winning the game, and all yous are just sort of moping around?
Especially when what Klopp looks for is mentality in players. Yeah. I've long maintained that what you pay for, when you pay the absolute top dollar for players, what you're paying for is the mental attributes. Yeah. You're not paying just for the skill, you're paying for the fact that these lads are winners who want to go out. And notably, we spent £12 million on our defence in the last 3 years. So if we're not spending the money on the lads, and one of the lads we spent money on, we're not playing at all. Now, I know Klopp, when we brought Matip in, Klopp was like, this is a bargain. If you were buying him, you'd be paying 30 million for this lad because he's brilliant. And next to somebody else, he might be brilliant, but there was too much, he looks like he's given up. And then Mignolet, we all know that Mignolet thinks too much about the game. And we know that because by his own admission, they came out and he said when he was having a bad stretch, it was because his wife came out to him and said, you're thinking too much, just play on instinct. When he plays on instinct, he can be, as we all know, a great shot stopper. It's the whole, but he's a great shot stopper. When he's not thinking about something, he's fine. When he's got time to think about something, so when that ball breaks free, my first thought yesterday was that he hesitated and then came forward. Now, having rewatched the horror show of each goal about 500 times over the last 24 hours, he does come out immediately. He does run, but it's the wrong decision. His decision-making is shocking. For me, if you put Karius in goal, and I know there's a lot of discussion about Karius, and I know Craig said on Pink, his arms are basically made of smoke, and we've seen issues with him, and he will make mistakes. That's okay. I watched Bruce Grobler in the 80s make tons of mistakes, but he dug us out when he needed to. But Mignolet, if he thinks about it, is going to make a mistake. He made the mistake coming to weakly flap at the ball for the fourth. And for the fourth and for the third, when he basically flaps that corner out, or the free kick, or whatever it bloody was, when he kind of flaps and it falls at Ali's feet. I told you, I can't remember. There's one.
The header's Matip's header.
There's a header. The header's Matip's header. So
you can't head it very far, Matip.
There's a corner where he comes. There's a high ball where he comes out and he basically flaps it back into the crowd. You don't do that. Either keep on your line, or make sure you're taking it. It wasn't that hard a ball. Go on with a fist, punch it. Don't flap this loose hand at it. So if you've got him, Karius is going to make better decisions. Karius might let goals in. And he has let goals, and we know that, but we haven't seen him play consistently. But the last few games where he's played in Europe, his defence in front of him looks sure about the fact. Now, if you're that defence, you're going, I've got this knobhead playing behind me who's going to make the wrong decisions. And if you're the goalie at the moment, you're going, I've got these two knobheads in front of me who are going to make the wrong decisions. So we've got a trilogy of knobheads at the back, and they're just making wrong decisions all over the bloody place.
The wrong decisions is, John... Yeah, we can go through each of the goals in the game. We probably will over the course of the show, but the one that drives me maddest in hindsight is Spurs' third. Is that somehow we've got a lifeline, we've got a foothold in the game, we're hanging on. we're not even hanging on at that point. Spurs have become a bit disrupted, a little bit ragged. They weren't great sort of second half of the first half, Tottenham, but then they don't have to be. This is back to my, how easy is it for Spurs to score a goal? They don't have to be great. It's just gift after gift after gift after gift in that passage of play. Right the way through, everybody is just awful.
Yeah,
it's a crap free kick to give away. First of all,
well, he loses the ball terribly as well.
Dwells too long on the ball.
Yeah,
but why doesn't he know that it's like nearly half time?
Yeah.
Sorry, where is he? Where's he supposed to be at this point? Because he's changed to right back, but then he's right back and Milner's right back, and they're kind of interchanging between right back and right midfield, and neither of them are where they're supposed to be. So he's in an area of the field with it being on half time that he doesn't need to be in. He's got no reason to be there. If he's been told you're right back, okay, but you're right back that's pushing up, he's pushed up and pushed in. So he's gone back to more orthodox. Well, he's gone back to the position he was playing in at the beginning of the game. He's got absolutely no reason to be there.
Yeah, it's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. I'm not sure kind of where he is on the pitch, but it's just there's a refusal of a lot of them. But I think Chan might be the worst to just get rid in certain situations, and he's cost us another goal recently as well, where he just tried to dribble it to the touchline instead of just if you're in trouble. It can go to Rose and that's fine, but this team seems to think that they're above it for whatever reason. But the free kick, I mean, they don't even really have a go, Tottenham. They don't really put anyone forward.
It's hopeful, isn't
it? They've took half time.
Yeah, and then we still managed to concede.
They've got about one fella kicking round, and we've got about 6 in a row.
Yeah.
And they still managed to present it to Ali, and no one picks up the second ball as well. And
no one closes it down.
No,
he's got all the time in the world.
It's absolutely
he doesn't even hit it that well. But it is mad. It's absolutely wild. Like the nous aspect of all of that goal is just so infuriating because, like we say, Emre Can, why doesn't he know? Why doesn't he just know whereabouts in the game you are and have an idea? There's a big fucking clock in the stadium, you know what I mean? Look up and it says 45 and go, hang on, we're going off the pitch in a minute. I won't take any risks. I'll just fucking boom it, or I'll get rid and we'll get our shape and we won't concede, because we all know the chestnut about it's the worst time to concede and all that. And it was, though, because like you say, Neil, it was like,
we got away with one.
Salah, we get exactly what I thought. I just thought, well, Salah's got us back in there. A little bit of fortune about that goal as well, but so what? And I just thought, you know what? If we get out of this 2-2, I'll be absolutely made up.
But we started playing football. We looked dynamic. We got some speed. We got some strength. And we're actually on top for about 5-10 minutes there. And that's the point where he does it to us.
And it's absolutely mad. But the challenge as well, like what do you think you're getting out of as you're sprinting after him and he's going away, and he's got a bar 3 coming towards him, by the way. What do you think in your head, Emre, is going to happen when you go in from behind? You're never going to get the ball. You're always going to get a yellow. You're giving them a free kick at a crucial point in the game. And then the defender from the free kick's just wild. I don't know what they're doing. I honestly don't know what they're doing. The defender, as though like they've brought everyone forward, as though like all the centre-halves have come up and the keeper and everything. And there's like one fella kicking about. And it's like, just mark the one fella, win the header, get to half-time, job done. And like you say, it's a crap header. It's crap the way like he's running backwards to get to it and everything else. Is there not a shout from the keeper there to just let it go as well?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what
but if there isn't, you just let it flick off your head. It goes for a throw, maybe even it goes for a corner. It just doesn't have to go back into the centre of the pitch.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the basics that you're taught as a kid, isn't it? Like
knock it aside.
You're not putting it back into a dangerous place, but that's exactly what he does.
Yeah.
It's on all this, John. I think the after that point, but I think before that point, I think we do have a nice 5 minutes at some point in the first half, but I just thought there was also just this complete failure to build any momentum for Liverpool in the game. That was one of my get to half-time things. Get to half-time, get it in at 2-1, have their manager go, lads, we can't play much better than that, and we can't, they could, but have the attitude of, give them something to do. But it was all the way through just this complete inability to build any momentum in the game as well. That's where, I understand the individual errors and the knocking off for the goals, but that's where you're looking at the whole shape right the way through the game going, lads, what do you think you're doing here? What do you think the plan is?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the plan was, but you're talking there like they're an intelligent football team and they're not, and you're saying, why can't this team be more like this, where they think the way through a game, or they try and get a foot all of it, or they think in terms of, well, it's a 90-minute game, so not everything has to happen right now, but we can build momentum towards it. And I just don't think that type of team at all. I think they're just very fair weather, and I think when things are going great for them, I think they enjoy it and they look good, and you know, it's all a laugh and it's all fun and games, you know, battering Maribor and all that. But when things start to go wrong, there's just not that kind of will or hunger there, or I don't know what it is, to just kind of, to just dog it for a bit, or to just, as you say, try and get on top, or to be a bit physical or whatever, or I don't know. They just seem to go, this is too much like hard work. I can't be bothered with this. I don't think they enjoy like different aspects of the game. I think they love it when they're attacking dead well and it's a nice pitch and it's sunny and, you know, they've got the mates there with them. But as soon as it kind of gets a bit tough, they just don't seem to kind of have the stomach for, oh, well, we're going to do this for 10 minutes and this is kind of what this is going to look like. They're sort of like, nah, I like the bit where we're all attacking them, we're in triangles and that's boss. And I don't know, I found myself missing Lucas Leiva yesterday, and I was thinking about how he played against Harry Kane last season, and that's what Klopp was talking about. When he was saying, if I'd have been on the pitch, that wouldn't have happened. He's not saying I'm a better defender than Dejan Lovren, because I don't think he is. What he's saying is, I just wouldn't have had it. And there's not enough of them saying, I'm just not having this. You know, I don't care how good you say you are. You're just not doing that to me. And I don't know, they just seem to accept the lot sometimes and go, oh, well, Tottenham are good, aren't they? In the 3-1 now, so sorry. We'll play next week.
But it is that mental aspect about so many of them as well. And you know, Lovren goes off after half an hour, so there will be fingers pointed at him, and rightly so, because still don't know what's going on. But it's the fact that he makes one mistake and then his head's gone.
Yeah.
You know, that's why he's taken off, because he's just absolutely gone. You could see him talking to himself and all kinds. You know what I mean? That is not a fella who's in the right place. That is not a fella who's mentally strong. When I look at him there as a fan, I just look at him and go, you've just completely gone. Your head's gone. You're in the wrong place, and you can't get yourself back in the right place either. It's like, you know, I'll just keep using Carragher as an example, because I thought his mentality was fantastic throughout his career. You know, you look at the amount of times he scored an own goal, and he won't appreciate me bringing that up, but he recovers from it straight away. He just he gets back to what he's doing. He gets back to his job. You hear him screaming, below and all that. And it just feels like we haven't got people like that right now. There's no communication at the back. You don't really hear that much shouting. Mignolet seems to have a bit of a go at that for a while. I'm not sure it's going on again now. I don't hear it as much. I'm on the cop, and so, you know, you'd expect to hear it from there and don't really hear it. I don't know. I mean, lots of people say this group of players and this team are perhaps a little bit too nice. That's thrown at them. And I can see it, to be honest. I think there is an aspect of nice about this side, and not enough grit, not enough what you're talking about, where you just think, fuck this, no, you know what I mean? I mean, even Harry Kane there, look, everyone's rightly giving him loads and loads of praise about how good he is, how he's took his game on, how he's gone from being what everyone said was a one-season wonder to being a great player, one of the best strikers in the league, all the rest of it. But you know what I liked yesterday? See where he ran 90 yards. See where he lost the ball and ran 90 yards to go and get it back. And look, people might bollock him for that in some ways and say, well, that's not your position, lad. You know, you should stay up there. Don't worry about that. But I just like that. I just like that he's got that about him, that he's like, fuck, I fucked up. I'm going to go and try and make this right. And he runs that distance. And it's like, yes, that's what I want to see as a fan. I want to see more of that. And I don't see enough of it from this Liverpool side.
I think if you're talking about the mentality and what you're saying about Klopp saying that if he was on the pitch, that wouldn't have happened. Possibly, if you know your limitations as a player, you're going to do the sensible thing. You're going to do the thing that's going to be the most effective. So if you're Lucas Leiva and you're playing centre back, and you know that you're not a centre back, and you know you're playing out of position, and you know that you're not Steven Gerrard, you're not Jamie Carragher as a centre back. You know your limitations, so you don't do anything daft. Maybe Lovren doesn't know his limitations.
I will on that one. I actually think that's one around the third with Matip Seder. I sort of half wonder if he's thinking, I'll let this back in because we could be on the break. Not just his own limitations, but the rest of the teams. You know, the idea that we if I keep the ball alive here, there's a chance that we could break at these and run at them all of a sudden. Maybe
it's knowing your strengths as well.
Yeah. I just wonder that was one of the things I was wondering when you're watching it back on the highlights and on the replay is the idea of, is he actually thinking if we keep the ball alive here, we could be breaking, because they do want to all back each other, and there's times where you've got to, and I think this is part of what John's saying, there's times where you've got to knock back. You've just got to knock back yourself for a little period. You've got to say, how do we just get from X to Y for the next 5 minutes? And that's why that goal winds me up so much, because there's just such a clear pathway. How do we get from 45 minutes on the clock, 2-1, to half time, 2-1? Yeah. That's all your job is. That's what all those 11 on the pitch, that's all their job is. It's not make it 2-2. That's my thing. It's not rescue the situation for us, boys. It's not do something brilliant. It's just how do we get from there to there? And it's a really simple 2 minutes to sort of pilot our way through. It's
take this and build on it, isn't it? And I think you could level the charge that what we do is we play too much with emotion rather than with intelligence. And if part of that emotion is, look, we're actually great going forward and we'll push to go forward, but anger is an emotion, fury is an emotion.
Well, on that, John, I think and something that you're trying to talk about as well through this is one of the killers with this performance result is, the manager himself talks about emotional football, has talked about emotional football, but it's hugely problematic to be constantly to want to feed off emotions when the emotions are negative. Yeah. And that's something that I think you see at 1-0 and 2-0 when we're talking about people's heads going and all that sort of stuff. Their heads are going because they're unable, they can't forget. They can't just live in that moment. Loads of them just cannot just live. And I know that's really hard, but that's one of the things that you do as elite sports people, is you live in that moment. And that can have a huge positive thing. If everything's going well, it's hugely positive. But if things aren't going well, then the inability to forget and move on is a real, and to be emotional is a real kick in the teeth for this team.
Yeah, it does seem to be, and it's rare this team's had a game where they've started badly and then recovered and played well and got themselves out of it. It seems to be all or nothing with this team, and that's very dangerous because you can't be brilliant every week,
or every minute.
Yeah, every minute, but you don't seem to kind of have that in them. And it's you talk about the emotional stuff as that as well. I mean, Klopp's in a difficult position as well because he's backed his lads to such a hilt that. I'm not sure what his move is now with a couple of them really, because he's gone out and said there aren't 5 defenders better than the ones we've got, and he's praised them, and his whole thing's about belief, isn't it? That's the first thing he says. We want to go from doubters to believers. So, but he must be a doubter now about a few of them. But then does that become confusing for the players if he's suddenly going, hang on, this fella's been telling us how brilliant we are for 2 years, and now he's going out and slaughtering us, and just after a bad game, and so it might get kind of confusing for them really. And he's obviously tried a bit of a change of tack, as Gareth says. It's not like him to publicly slag off the players to that extent, but he's obviously felt like he has. But I think for some of the players that might end up being the kind of the end of the line for them really. We'll just have to see how they react. I don't know whether a week off now is good or not. We've got the West Ham game next, which seems like a decent place to go at the moment.
It's Huddersfield first, John. Huddersfield.
We've got Huddersfield first, sorry.
Huddersfield home and then West Ham away.
Of course, yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good game to bounce back. I mean, they obviously had a really good result at the weekend, but, it's a home game. It's in front of our own fans, and so... that should be a game. They should be looking at this thinking this is an opportunity for us. This is an opportunity for us to get that right, to show that that we are good players and show that we've got a bit of a fight in us as well. That's how you'd hope to react, but we'll have to see.